Hello and welcome to another scene in the darkness of Edessa. As naught but days before the army of the barbarian Seljuks arrive, the nobility is having a luxurious party to celebrate the fact that they are not among the peasantry and will probably not be dealing with most of the nonsense that they will be having to deal with. Auric himself has used his connections to establish himself an invitation to this little event in the hopes of guiding some fellows uh, down his path, his point of view, so to speak, and has brought on his dear Lady Seneschal as a guest, hoping that she'll not be told to shut up and that she'll be as persuasive as Ulrich hopes.
Madeline has come here following, or she's met with Ulrich just as before she entered. She has herself been able to, by herself, gain entrance to this place. She's just happy to see Ulrich there, and they follow each other more or less inside. Just before they enter, as they're walking up, and maybe as they're standing alone just inside, Madeline will just lean in to Ulrich and just say, "Oh, by the way, I am, with all the turmoil last night, I am quite sorry that I might have come across a bit rejective. It was not a good situation, and I saw no real better solution than what turned out to be the end result. But please, this is not what we have to talk about. Do you have anyone in particular in mind we need to talk to?"
I have a few. I'll just give you a name of prominent noble names. Manfred Vendome, Goofy Lestor, and Luca de Maggio Lasci.
You'll notice that the, some of them she seems to recognize or not. I mean, she reacts a bit more to them than you would than she does one of the ones she obviously doesn't know. But um, she just nods, and she removes. She has like an overcoat which looks like the clothes she's normally wearing. She takes that off, and what she's wearing, well, it's not particularly flashy, but it is a bit more glamorous, or like get up, bit more of a. It's not noble clothing, but it could be, actually it could be
She could pass as a noble.
quite easily. You're quite sure that that could indeed be the case.
So the party is underway. It is quite. I mean, there's people playing. It's quite. It's almost maybe slightly forced brevity. There is a Turkish horde has entered the county and is coming towards the city rather scarily. And
Out of character,
Mhm.
Madeline will just look at Ulrich before they, or as they come in. Given this is a noble house, do you think that there might be anyone who would possess mirrors in here? She looks at it.
That's a fair point. Um,
Do be careful. We would not want anyone to raise any questions. The two of them will quite thoroughly look for mirrors, since this is probably one of the places there could be mirrors.
So, there is a mirror you can see at one side of the room. It's not. I mean, it's not a modern mirror. It's essentially thin and highly polished copper or brass or something, whatever they made mirrors out of. That gives a kind of a still slightly warped and odd, um, odd kind of reflection. It's not a perfect reflection. As long as you stay kind of directly away from it, it should be okay.
Auric also blend in, but he's not going to. Obviously, he's not going to be eating or drinking much. He may have a mostly empty flask or glass on hand, so as to give the excuse as to why he wouldn't be drinking. But he looks like he's blending in and socializing. And
so, can both of you make a wits etiquette roll to essentially conduct yourself at the party. The difficulty is 5. If you have 5 dice in this, you can just automatically pass.
Oh yeah, I have 5 dice. But I got 3 successes.
Wits etiquette?
Wits etiquette, yeah.
Got 1 success.
So you both come in and you're greeted. A few people nod at you. You've probably not been seen around. They would assume that you're minor nobility. And yeah, you basically begin socializing. Some people come up to you. They basically start talking about all sorts of things. Actually, the first person you are approached by, the first person that you recognize is a rather fat lady who you remember being the cousin of Lady Beatrice from the game of when you played the game of 100 Candles.
Mm.
And she's with a small crowd and basically talking away. Seems animated and happy over the disappearance of her cousin.
As harmless she witches do among the nobility. Auric begins blending in and is fairly used to the normal procedure. This is something he's been instructed in since when he was mortal. So,
Madeline, what is your path rating?
7.
So, okay, yeah. So neither of you need to spend blood to activate blood.
I do have the Blush of Health.
Oh, you do. Sorry, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're fine. And Ulrich is quite high on humanity, so it doesn't need to be there. You both blend in fairly effectively. What would you like to do? There's a lot of people around. None of you. Ulrich doesn't actually know what or who the. Although he knows the names and kind of their positions and stuff, he doesn't actually know them by face. Any of the nobles. It wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to inquire.
Well, just for clarity, Madeline will actually have a glass of wine she will drink from as she's walking around, and she would just inquire as to the general mood of it. If people are, what is the general? Is it like people talking about when they should pack up their stuff and leave the city, or,
What people are saying is people are not talking too much about the oncoming Turkish horde. Whenever they do, they will raise a glass to God and to the regent, and say they cannot wait to see him crush them on the field of battle. Now they are in the open and not being treacherous. But you can make a perception empathy roll for me.
Auric, in the meanwhile, while this is happening, is just schmoozing with the crowd. Maybe even gotten into a bit of a discussion with Lady Beatrice's cousin, and raising a glass but not actually drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Teetotal. So, Madeline, you get the feeling that there's a lot of fear behind this kind of false brevity, a lot of kind of overcompensation for the fact that people are slightly worried and don't know what's going to happen. And they almost seem like being overly jovial. Not because they're trying to hide anything, because there's a kind of nervous excitement, maybe frustration that is kind of almost bubbling to the surface a little bit.
And panic has a tendency to spread, so if people begin to, one or two begin to panic, then everyone will lose faith. I suppose that's part of it. She'll take note of that. She will ask around for some of these names of these nobles.
So, yeah, you can basically ask for various names. You are pointed to three different men, the three kind of main, the wealthiest and most influential nobles in the city. The figures of the Lestors, the Vendrome, and the Rucci. Lord Lestor is over in a fairly central area with a small crowd around him and appears to be giving a talk about how he's going to crush the Turks, and he's so glad. Uh, he thinks it's so polite of them to come to him so that he does not have to trudge over this heathen land to go find them. And yeah, he appears to have a small kind of group around him. Stefan of Vendrome is, if I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly at all, is appears to be over on a kind of side area with a smaller group, and who are having a very quiet and apparently much more serious conversation. And Luca the Maggiorocci is over in a seat sitting and appears to be chatting up some beautiful young Frankish noblewoman. Sorry. The only other figure that clearly stands out is there is a man over in the corner who is in conversation with some other people, and he is wearing a bishop's habit, or kind of bishop's robes, although not the hat. But he's on the other side of the room from you.
And we do not recognize him, right?
You don't recognize him.
Thankfully.
The person having the serious and private conversation, Madeline will try to either get in and sit next to or close to this person, or just listen in on the conversation.
As you approach, the conversation appears to dry up before you can kind of get within, like, kind of listening earshot. And the group kind of bow to you politely, as you would have expected to. They would treat you like a noblewoman. And they will be having a conversation about jousting that seems, even without a perception empathy roll, seems slightly forced.
Oh, they don't want to talk when I'm near. Oh. Madeline will, for the moment, she's going to try to convey that she is a bit more, well, she's going to appear as though she's not necessarily focusing too much, or that she might not be the most observant person in the world. That would maybe lower their guard. However, this will take a moment So we do not.
As the storyteller is frozen in fear at this lady's machinations.
I do believe he is.
Meanwhile, Arik has gotten to know the cousin of Lady Beatrice quite well. So well as that he's just chatting her up a little bit, almost getting slightly flirtatious and such, allowing Lady Madeleine to take her time and not at all leave Arik alone with a bunch of useless nobles. To identify the appropriate individuals to discuss important policy decisions.
For the moment, Madeline will, for the sake of the ST needing to get back in, we'll just sit and listen for this justing conversation and probably let it come to its eventual conclusion, since it is very forced. It will probably not last that long, but who knows?
Does Lady Madeleine confer with Ulrich the names and locations of these gentlemen?
If you come close, she will get up and come over to you and whisper to you. Yes.
This is good. Ulrich finds this quite pleasing. As they appear to be in heated discussion, he'll hold off for now. He'll look towards Master Rochi and we'll say with a grin that maybe perhaps look a bit sick. You may be able to help greatly there.
To Madeline?
Yeah, as Master Rochi is clearly chatting up some French noblewoman, it's clear that he's what he's implying here to one extent or another.
She will just note that and just for the moment she'll just look at him and just put him out. Then it depends on what the ST say. If he decides to rematerialize, Madeline might go over and talk.
A man that appears to wear his price on his sleeve, Ark will state fairly quietly to you, and will say, when you're ready, I'll continue blending in.
Do you want me to talk to him first?
No, perhaps best that I start and you play the part of foolish damsel. That's no doubt how he views people like you.
She nods. You get the sense that she will, I mean, if you need her to, she's ready to go and talk to any of these guys.
Alright, looks towards Vendome, who, looks semi-serious and then seemed to back out serious discussion when you came. They may be a bit harder to crack open. It'd be more difficult to establish what their views are. Lester should be obvious. He's fairly public about his hatred for his barbarian foes. We may be able to use that as an advantage. I wonder if he and Sir Gwent are acquainted.
And I wonder if some of these people, what they say is the truth, or if it is bravado to cover over something else. I cannot really say, but one can wonder.
Indeed. In fact, Lister could use additional funding. I hear he's a bit less than apt when it comes to financial management.
That is always a good way in.
Well, he spent quite a lot on raiding parties against the Sejaliks in the past 3 years. From what I hear, he may be able to turn that on him. No doubt his family can't keep sustaining itself. Unless they had significant ties to the Rothschilds, but to my knowledge they don't.
A sensitive matter, but I am sure we can inquire in the right way.
Wow. It is not that I'd say public knowledge, but not exactly an open secret, perhaps a good way to put it. No doubt he's pushing for the curfew of the Islamic population. I'm not sure how I feel about such a thing. I remember the chief rabbi being released under riots when, well, the nobleman got a bit carried away.
I do not think it will solve anything to further antagonize the Muslims, but that is my take. That is my...
I'm no Saracen, but in this instance I wouldn't consider it pragmatic. Especially when you have a refugee influx. You end up with an awful lot of disorganized commoners with a lot of reason to be angry, and we just saw last night how that can get out of control too quickly.
Way too quickly.
We'll need to manage this religious divide carefully. If we can unite them against a common foe, then it shouldn't be a problem.
By the way, do you know if she looks around, any of these three men are, what shall we say, spoken for?
What do you mean?
If they have assistance from someone who would be more like us.
They may have connections, no doubt. But I'm not certain. No doubt that some of the ones who claim to be the lords, the knights of our little society, would have connections. Others I am uncertain. But I'm not sure it would be significant.
It would be interesting. Well, I would think that having a more permanent understanding with them from you be somewhat of a boon for us, but it is merely a observation.
Ultimately, I believe that while they may have connections, I would consider my world to be greater than theirs. I have years of those higher than them.
Either way.
Their connections would be using them to climb up the food chain. However, these nobles can do the opposite. They can use me to climb up the food chain.
Either way.
They want to gain favor with me rather than our little friends would be wanting to gain favor with families instead.
Well, having people in the right places, I feel it does not. It can never hurt, but maybe it can. What do I know? I might be wrong. It's a list of things you should consider, but we should consider, I say. But and yes, I do believe that we have a Robbie that is out of action, even though we have tried.
I was typing to you so you wouldn't break my immersion, you scumbag, but yeah,
Oh, that was the point. All right, great. We'll have to we'll have to do it at some other point, I suppose.
Yeah, still alive, you scumbag, stop talking. Ulrich will state, well, he'll prepare his coffers to take a blow if he needs to deal with the Rothschilds or the Lesteurs. He is concerned that the Lesteurs will not be able to change, that the money will not be enough. Them to be religious fanatics to an extent, at least the Lord. Which, well, Auric has, our dear Baron, has seen personally how dangerous fire-branded faith can be. It can be redirected in a limited sense, but not dulled or properly controlled. Vendome to Auric is a bit of a grey area, and he seems to be acting rather secretive at this party. Part of the suppressed tone. Veiled negativity, effectively. And no doubt that all of these men share enough prejudice that they no doubt want to shove every single Muslim in effectively an internment camp, which the Baron does not consider pragmatic, although he doesn't feel an enormous amount of sympathy considering he himself is a Catholic. He is, let's say, not as prejudiced as some Canaanites of the city. The barony itself forcing him to take a more egalitarian, a hand of equality, a hand of neutrality on the matters of faith. The fact that he has witnessed things far worse than what he witnessed but a night ago, merely compounding on this, damaging belief in his faith and that of other faiths. To him, they aren't always so different.
Madeline will she will blend her mingle a bit more than before. Not more than before, but she will mingle and go around, see what people, just get a feel for some of these people. Who knows? It might become relevant at some point.
Arl continues schmoozing, having broken off his conversation with Lady Seneschal and the cousin of Lady Beatrice. He goes to some more minor nobles, where perhaps he finds himself on more even ground. He's still among the nobility, and he definitely has the ear of a regent, which is a significant soft power, not something held in a title, per se. He finds himself at a slight advantage in dealing with these people. Dealing with the lords would be more tricky. You have to take a more steady hand. Perhaps he can use this more subtle influence to his advantage, but you have to apply it very, well, as subtly as the power itself, perhaps. And the Baron will, as festivities continue, there is, of course, a dance for the nobility as they sway to and fro in their much more refined musics. Not just the simple minstrel at common folks' festivities. More expensive, more highly decorated instruments.
Madeline, as this is getting set up, Madeline will insist that Ulrich and her dance.
Yeah, he agrees, and he takes the stage and absolutely nails it. It's safe to say that perhaps, in a sense, he's the star of this little show. We'll see how well the Lady Seneschal does, however.
Considering, what would you say? Do you say athletics? Do you say expression or performance?
It's not expression. That has nothing to do with it. It's definitely performance.
Okay. And manipulation?
It's dex performance because you're dancing.
All right. You will notice that Madeline has spent blood.
She's definitely pushing herself a bit.
Yeah, well, she needed to get a lot more dexterity, a lot faster than she thought she would. So she's.
As the Baron seems to the Baron seems to take control of, seems to take the lead, in a sense. Even now, even as you spent blood, he just seems to be ahead of you. It's a bit slightly mystifying, considering.
Not that mystifying.
In the sense that she's undergone the quickening and it's still a bit tricky to keep up. But you don't fall over anything. You put up a satisfactory performance, but
Madeline doesn't really dwell on it because she's having fun for the moment. She's just enjoying it. Maybe also mingling with the nobility is an extra bonus. Who knows?
She puts up a slightly above average performance. Ulrich helping you push that beyond the simply above average into the realm of excellent. To the point where, well, he's easily able to pick you up and do an almost grandiose motion, which would, and the priest goes around him. I'm just checking if. He, however, after a while, comes to a stop, and it's not necessarily raucous applause because this is a it's civilized, and there is a muted tone here of displeasure. Perhaps the dance did better to hide it, but it is ultimately still there, as this party cannot escape the raucous horde inevitably approaching within nights. Every moment, they're aware that potential death is on its way. And as the dance comes to an end, the Baron and the Seneschal shall go to approach their respective lords, Vendome, Rochi, and with that we shall leave the scene on a cliffhanger for another time. Thank you for watching.